All right, it looks like we're ready to go. It's about the top of the hour at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and our webinar is about to begin here. My name is Pete Ellison, and I'm going to be doing the presentation for you today. And before we start, and while we're waiting for a couple of extra people to come on into the webinar, I thought that I would give you a brief introduction about who I am, and how I got started with show operations. My background in IT is about 16 years in the making. And I've worked on systems from the Cray supercomputer to mainframe systems, PC systems, and I ended my IT career in 2004 to pursue my passion of having a company and an entertainment company that did percussion activities. So I come to the table with some background on how to work with programming. I used to do programming for lots of companies. I worked for small and large companies alike, and I've done programming, and I ended my career as a business technology analyst, which is a very cool gig. But when the downsizing happened at the manufacturing company I was working for, happened in 2004, that hand was kind of dealt. And I decided, rather than get back into the IT world, that I would just take a career jump. And so I've never really put away the IT shoes. And we'll get into why I created the show operations program in just a moment. So I think we're ready to get going here. And let me just get over to that screen real quick. So tonight, we are going to be covering contact management software and why we need it as business owners or entertainers or whatever brought you to the table here tonight. The options available to us and why show operations was created. How to leverage your technology to improve your bottom line. And the product benefits and uses. And I will go briefly into some screen samples about what we do with show operations. So let's get underway here. So contact management software and why we need it. Well, first we have to understand what contact management software is. It's commonly referred to as CRM. And the definition of CRM is customer relationship management. It's a system for managing a company's interactions with current and future customers. It often involves using technology to organize, automate, and synchronize sales, marketing, customer service, and technical support. Now that's a lot to take in there, but basically it's better than having a index or a Rolodex file and a big cabinet worth of file folders and whatnot. So this helps us, the CRM management allows us to have all of our data organized in one particular spot. Now there's a lot of options available for CRM. Some of them you may know. You could be involved or have had experience with OnContact or Sales Nexus or Salesforce or NetSuite or Maximizer CRM or Sugar CRM or TeamWalks or Workbooks, Act, or Infusionsoft. These are just some of the big players that are in the CRM market right now. And with CRM, the problem with a lot of these companies is that they are extremely complex to try to get set up and running and even figure out if something goes wrong. And the other problem is that they are not an inexpensive way of doing business. And they lock you into a pretty expensive investment when you're using that type of software. And finally, they can become a total time suck. Slippering down the tunnel of time with these, trying to figure out how these things work. And I tried many of these things out. When I was setting up the company for One World, we started out we were using Act 6.0, and we were using QuickBooks to do the accounting. So what that involved was somebody coming in and contacting us in email, copying and pasting that data into both the Axe as well as the QuickBooks program, because they both serve two different purposes, and they never really were in sync with one another right from the get-go. And by the way, I then migrated to Axe, to the ACT program online, and that was not much better. And so then I started to research things. I tried to install Salesforce and play around with it. I played around with the Sugar CRM, and what I came to the conclusion was that none of these were working for what I needed to do, which was have a very simple system that could go in, keep everything organized, not cost an arm and a leg, and get our business done and automate our business. You know, leverage the technology so that we didn't have to spend a lot of time doing the legwork. And so our first version of this software became what we called internally Axe, which the reason why is it was inspired by our first use of Act 6.0. But it's what you know now as show operations, and it's an evolving process. We are constantly adding things and changing things around and tweaking things. It looks completely different than what the version that's being run by OneWorld. It's the same in structural system, but as far as the visual look, it's completely different. So that's why I ended up getting into creating my own thing. And it works out very well for us. We've been testing it now since 2009 and have had great success in keeping on top of our clients. And this brings the point on how to leverage technology to improve your bottom line. The fact is that you need to be able to have your contact info at the ready when you're dealing with your clients, whether that's at your desk, whether it's out on the road. You should be able to have everything you need to know what that client's all about, the past communications, the past invoicing, everything that's gone on, whether even if maybe they booked an event, then they tried to rebook an event the next year and that fell through. That's still recorded in there so that when it comes time to dealing with them down the road, you have everything that's gone on with that client, and you can put valuable information into the system that helps you stay on top of things. In fact, many times our clients are amazed that we can bring up some information that we had put in. They don't know that, we're looking at the screen, but the fact is that it's nice to be able to go back and say, read back a note that makes that connection with your client. And you'll see how easy it is to do that in this program. So I'd like to dive right into the product benefits and uses. And for that, I'm going to need to do a quick change of screens. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I'm going to change things around here. And screen share a different screen. Here we go. All right. Now we're looking at the show operations screen. As you can see, it's pretty clear. And by the way, just so that I know that you're able to hear me properly, could you register and go click the little talk to us button down there, and would you just type in the word "yes, I can hear you," so that I know that you're not sitting there going, "What's he saying? Why is the screen changing?" That would be great. And I should let you know that there is a delay of about nearly a minute from where I'm talking and what you type. So if it seems like I'm really lagging and getting back to you, it's just the lag in the broadcast. Okay. So basically, you're just clicking that little talk to us thing, you put in your name, and I think it asks for your email, and then just say loud and clear or whatever, just so I know that you're able to hear me okay. Okay, it looks like we're getting some responses back. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. So we're looking at the show operations screen. And let me get over to that window so I can navigate around. And in show operations, we have two distinct functions that show operations covers. There's the event billing and setup function, and then there's the contact management side of things. So when you get your show operations account, the first thing you're going to want to do is go into the settings area, and you're going to create some invoice categories. Now, if you're not going to use the invoice thing, that's fine. You don't have to use the invoice functionality of it to still get something out of this software. In fact, some of our clients don't use that function. But I'm going to go through the steps on how easy it is to set this up. So I clicked on settings, and then I clicked on the invoice type setup. And I'm going to add a new event type. And you'll see here that it added new event. I'm going to go in and edit that real quick. And I'm hoping that you could still see that window. I hate to slow things down a bit, but I want to make sure that you're able to see this. So let me take a look real quick. Yeah, I think you're seeing, I got to make another setting change real quick. Entire screen, I think, is what we need to do here, because you're probably seeing a white window. Eek. All right. If you could, I think that should have updated your screen. All right, so I'm going to go back one just so that you see what happened there. So I went in and I created this new event. I'm editing it, and that created a pop-up window here. Okay. And so now what I do is, for the event, I need to give it an event identifier so that I know what it is we're going to call this thing. Now, the identifier can be just about anything that you'd like it to be. It's what's going to show up on your invoices. So in this particular case, I'm going to create an event ID called Kids Party Package. And something over here. Now, you may want to, for this one, you might want to make something real abbreviated like KPP or something like that. And what you're doing in this side of things is the quote message that you would construct. So somebody's called you up, or they've filled out your form and they want to get a quote for what it is you do. Here's where you would say, you know, thank you for your interest in our company. Type. Please click the enclosed link to view your quote. Okay. Now you don't have to put the link in there. The system's going to do that automatically for you. This section in here could also go on and on and on. You could use the editor to create whatever look and feel you want for your quote note. And we'll see how that works in just a moment. In this side of the screen is the invoice message that they get after they've upgraded. They've gone ahead, they saw your quote, they press the yes, I'm interested button, and now they get a system message that gets delivered to them. So here could be something that's a thank you screen, and you could elaborate again. And reference, for them to pay their bill, simply click on the link that's enclosed. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. Okay. Once you've got these two things built, all you have to do is click any of the upgrades. You'll see that the command was a success, and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay. And you can see there's the kids party package and the KPP that I typed earlier. So that's all set to go. That's how we create an invoice type or a package type. Okay. And the reason why I bring that up is because we're going to go into an account, and let's go in and add a quick account. Uggs is the company. The name is, I don't know, Daniel Fisher. He's the owner. He doesn't work in a department, so we don't need to know that. I'm going to scroll down. His phone number is 800, and you could put it in any format that you want here. 555 1212. We could put in his fax, his cell, alternate numbers. Here we can throw in a status ID. So if we know this is, I don't know, if you're working with a particular group, maybe it's a school teacher and you want to put in the ID for a school teacher. That could come up later when you're doing your searches. If it's, you know, a businessman, or you can put whatever ID you want in there. If you're running a campaign and you want to tag that individual to the campaign, perfect. That's where you would use it. Here you'd put in their primary address. If you don't have it initially, that's okay. We can get to it at a later time. So same thing here. You could put in how they got to you. When you talk with them, you could say, hey, how did you hear about us? You could put in, it was referred by newspaper ad maybe. Okay, if they have a website, this important note stands out from all the other information on the client screen. And I'm going to say, for example, loves kittens. Be whatever important note you think is, you know, something that doesn't get lost in all your other notes. Okay, so here we go. We're going to submit the information, and we're going to load the client page. So far, I think it looks pretty simple to use. We've added a client, and we have the client info in here. If we had his department, we would have that, the status ID, his address. And by the way, the system goes back and it highlights in red when you have important data that needs to get filled in. So that's just a feature to give you a heads up. Same thing with if we didn't put in a valid email address, you're going to get bad email address. As a matter of fact, the system goes out and it's going to check the domain name of the email address. Now, if they're using a Gmail account and they got the @gmail.com correct, but they screwed up their first half of it, everything to the left of the @ sign, then it could report this as being a valid email, even though it is not valid, because it's only checking the domain to make sure that the domain information is correct and they haven't gotten something totally screwed up. So here we are on the screen, and because we don't have the zip code filled in, this part right in here that shows what the weather's like is not going to display. So let's go in. We're going to edit the client real quick. And because we've got this doing as a screencast, it kind of lags a little bit. It'll go much faster when you're at the reins here. So we're going to go ahead and put in 91505. And client modified. 91505 is now there, and you can see that's Burbank, California, and we can see the weather conditions that are going on there. Okay, so far, pretty straightforward. We would get the heads-up display on weather. This zone in here is to display any payments that you've collected. You would get a report that shows the invoice ID number, the amount, and the amount of money that you've processed already for this account. That's what that green zone is. And this zone down in here is to work on the second half of what show operations is all about. But we'll get to that in just a minute. One of the nice things, and those people that are using the service as a contact management, is that you can easily go in and you can add a note. I apologize for it going across the screen as it is. Here we go. And in here, you can create whatever note that it is you would like to add to the system. So spoke with client about, I don't know, arrival times and layout. It could be just about anything you want. You could go in, use the editor. You can add things like happy faces or whatever. This could be used as a very cool tool if you've had dealings with the individual. Take a photo of him or her, and then you could paste that photo into this note. And the system will go out and do that by going in here. You could go out and get clips of the building maybe you're going to, so you can recognize it. You could paste that in there. It supports any of that good stuff. And once that's there, we hit submit. We'll close that. By the way, if you're working on a Chrome browser, you don't have to go through the extra step of closing the open window. That just happens to be the quirkiness of Internet Explorer. But if you're in Chrome or Firefox, those should close down automatically for you. Okay, so now our note is right in here. And the notes are ordered in chronological order. And they're using the server time, so that's why it's showing up as 8:22, even though it's 6:22 in Burbank's time. That's just the server timestamp that's getting routed in there. Okay. Okay. Now, the other thing that people would use right off the bat, if you're not using the invoicing system, is to send out an email. And we're going to open up that window one more time. This one is the email window. Again, all these things fly through. It's just lagging a little bit because we're on this. Now, here's something that's super important. The system recognizes that the email is incorrect. So if it knows it's going to bounce, it's not even going to let you continue. It's going to give you a big red flag. So that keeps you from getting into trouble and wasting a lot of time. So let's go in, and I'm going to pull up another account real quick that's already populated so you kind of see what's going on. So here we have a school, Providencia Elementary School. The client's name is Linda Pontiac, and she's in Burbank, and here's her phone number, and here's her email address, which is my email address. But you can see some of the events that we've already done, and they're color-coded. This light blue shows up when you have a current booking that's in play. It shows you if it's in tentative status or if it's in book status, if it's been billed. Tentative and booked show up in this zone. DWOs show up in gray. That means it didn't work out. That's what DWO stands for. And finally, the completed invoices are over here. And you can always go and look at the invoice by clicking the invoice number. It'll bring up the screen, and you can see the invoice that got sent to her, which contains your performance details and her location and whatnot. So this acts as an invoice and a confirmation. Whoops. I'm going to take off screen share for just a moment. And see if you guys have any questions so far. Okay. And could you all type in there, yes, I'm still alive, or I want to just know if you're drooling on your keyboard or if you are still awake and we haven't lost you along the way. So in your chat box there, in your talk to us box, go ahead and type in, yes, I'm still awake. And while you're at it, if you're confused about anything so far covered, you could say, yes, could you recover this or explain something further that hasn't been self-explanatory. Okay. I'm going to continue to just talk while I wait your response. I realize there's about a minute delay, so I'm sorry for the lag. Okay. Looks like we're starting to get some things in. Okay, perfect. You're still awake. All right. So let me go back into the screencast and entire screen, and we're going to get that trippy reflecto. There we go. Come back in. All right. Oh, goodness gracious. Did I close down that window? I must have. I do apologize. Okay. So last we left off, we were looking at Linda Pontiac. Okay. And she's got some history with us. You could see some of the notes that were sent, some emails that got sent off. Playing around with the email notes and whatnot, if you want to get rid of a note, easy enough, just hit the remove note button and you're done. And that note is gone. Okay. So I was going to go ahead and send an email because the editor for the email looks a little bit different than the note editor. Some added features thanks to my good friend Claude, who actually made some suggestions that sounded and made a lot of sense. So here we are looking at the email screen, and we have the ability to create a template. So if you are constantly sending the same type of response letters out to your clients, this works out very easily because you can craft all of your response letters here, and we'll do a quick one. You want to make sure that you give it a name, like, I don't know, product info 1. And just like in the notes, you could go in, you can add graphics, you can add a header, and it makes it really pretty easy. So you go ahead and click create the template. It reloads the page, and now the template is right here to select product info 1. You select the template, and now it shows up right in here. We can then put in whatever subject line we want with it, and you don't have to retype all those things all over again. So we're going to go ahead and do a test. And you'll get a confirmation note that's saying that it got sent out successfully. Whoops. Sorry about that. We're getting a wonky thing here. Oh, it's because it's an Internet Explorer thing. Okay, there we go. So if we look down below, you'll see that we went ahead and sent out the note. I'm going to go ahead and open up another window here, and it's a different account. I don't use this program much, so. Aye, aye, aye. Okay, let's do it this way. I'm going to flip over to here. We'll go in this way because I use this one more often. Okay, there we are. Oh, and I was going to go over to Gmail as well. There we are. So here's the test email that was sent out. And you'll notice here that there's a graphic that's on the top. Here's where I typed in, here's the info on product one. It added a signature line for me automatically. It pulls your company information. And it added this graphic, and I'll show you where that is on the system. So when we go in to settings, we can specify a graphic that we want to display in all of our emails as a header. This was another suggestion from Claude, by the way, which is very useful. So if you want to use it, you can add that in. If you don't want to have a header, that's fine. You don't have to have. But one thing you do want to have is a graphic here, usually your company logo, so that that graphic displays on your invoices. So whatever's listed in your settings, that's where it's going to be. Okay. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about was the service providers. And here I've set up 3 different people. So there's me and my phone number and some fictitious employee names. These could be subcontractors, whoever's going to do the work on your invoice. You know, when you send out the invoice, that gets assigned to the individual. So let's go in back over to Linda Pontiac. And she has a tentative that we've already scheduled here. We could go in and edit that. Wow, that works much faster in this. So when we're looking at the event, we could put in the event date, the time start, the duration, how many guests, how much, what the travel fee is, and it'll calculate automatically the total. Oops, numbers only. Pete, numbers only. Here we go. You can see there's the 25 I added in. Let's go back in for a moment. So it automatically added the calculation of the 5 and the 25, 525. This discount area is applicable if you want to create urgency in your payments. And urgency in the payments means that if you put a discount type, let's say you wanted to give them $25 off, and you want to call it special promo. Okay, and we put in $25. Oops, we're going to put in just 25. Only Pete, members only. Okay. So now we've added a special promo code and a discount number. Okay. What the system is going to do on the invoice that gets generated is it's going to tell them that they get the $25 discount so long as they've paid the invoice in full by the performance date. That's the carrot and stick that you use to get somebody to make the payment on time. If you have a client, and you might get some clients that are county clients or whatever that simply cannot pay that way, then just leave that discount out. You could calculate the discount based on changing the base and the travel fee and just leave this alone. But if you want to have that extra carrot and stick, it's very effective for party people and for doing functions that you need to get paid on time for. Okay. And if you're using this in the business model, there's a flag that gets set so that On your invoices, it doesn't say event, it says product, and it looks more business related than it does event related. We have flags that turn that on. Okay, so here we are, and we've modified this event. Let's go ahead and we're going to send a quote. And by the way, oh, one more thing. Going back into that, I feel like I'm bouncing around here. It's who is assigned to this event. Well, remember the two fake employees that I put? There they are. So I can assign them. Whatever I put in that other screen is going to show up when we're creating a new invoice. Okay. And here's where we would change the status. Now we can manually change it, or the system can change it if the client decides to upgrade. So if we followed up with them and they said, no, I'm not interested, you could change this to DWO and it'll move it into that. Here is our KPP that we created, so we know it's the kids party package. This tells us what kind of quote is going to get sent out. So if you want to go with the full length and have it say kids party package, if that makes it easier for you to remember what KPP is versus a full description, you could do it either way. Okay, so it's a kids party package, very pricey, might I say, and we're going to modify that. Okay, we know that we've got the discount in play, it's a special promotion, and we're going to go ahead and send this out. Okay, it's a KPP quote, and whatever we set on the invoice type itself, that's the type of quote. It won't let you send out the wrong quote. So whatever you changed in when you edited this main document, that impacts this window here. So let's go ahead, set out the KPP quote, and take a look over in Gmail what that quote looks like. So my company is called Testico, and here's the quote. And there's that graphic that I showed you on that other screen. It says your requested Testico quote is here. And this is the data that I had put in that one field that said, thank you for your interest in our company, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And here is your custom quote. They click the link and they're taken over to the quote page. There's the 500. There's the quote ID number, which converts to a invoice number if they decide to upgrade. And as you can see here, it has a special note that is reflective of the discount. We scroll further down and you can see that even more. Special promo discount. Okay. And they can click the order now button. Now this also timestamps the quote so that they can't just sit on a quote forever and think that they're going to get that price. So this allows us to automatically put a 30-day expiration on the quote. Okay, so let's say the client said, okay, yeah, 525 is not so bad. I got a discount of $25, so it's 500. Perfect. I'm going to order. So here's what they get. Your event's been booked, and watch for a confirming email. So let's go back over to here. Whoops, here we are. Here's your Testico confirmation and invoice. So now the message says, hello, Linda, your event has now officially been booked and your quote has been converted to an official invoice. Please take a minute to review your invoice, which contains all the important information about your event, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is what you drafted up in that other field when we were setting up the event type. Okay? So now she goes ahead and she looks at her invoice. It brings it up, and guess what? Now there's a field here that says if it's paid on or before the event date, you get this is price. But if you pay after the event date, in this case the event date was for the 1st, then this is the price. So they know up front that's what it is. And here they can print their invoice, they can pay their deposit, or they can pay the invoice amount. Now, if they click the pay deposit, it's going to ask them for a $100 default deposit amount, and it's going to take them over to PayPal to take care of that transaction. If they click the pay invoice button, then it's going to send them to PayPal with a blank field for them to fill in, because we don't know how much they're going to be filling in. Maybe they're making a partial payment. Maybe they're finishing off doing a payment. They already did their deposit and they need to pay the balance off that way through PayPal. That's why we keep that field blank. And they just go in and edit the dollar amount that they want to pay, and away you go. You'll get a confirmation email from PayPal that they did the transaction. Okay. So that's pretty much how our system works. It is pretty straightforward. Now, let's take a look here. We've billed them, and there's one more email that is going to come up that you personally are going to get, that's going to say that your client upgraded their account. Okay. And because she did that off screen, yeah, what's going to happen is that you'll be notified that the client has done their transaction, and you could go ahead and log in their payment by going to the billing screen. Okay. And here is Linda for her event. And what we can do is, this field's really used more for if they're past due, as a heads up for you. But if you were going to process the payment, you could then go in, take the payment, and put in the type of payment. In this case, it was PayPal. In your email that you got from PayPal, you'd put in the reference number, and then you'd put in the dollar amount and hit process. For the sake of just seeing what happens, let's go ahead and put in a reference ID of some garbage here, and she paid $500. Process the payment, and we can return back to the contact screen. And there's our garbagey note and the date it was posted, by what type, and the dollar amount that was added on the account. So we now know that she's paid. Payment has been received is noted also on that account. Okay. Now, while we were in the billing screen, we could go in and we can actually move her now into the completed category, because she is now done. And now this has changed. She's now in the completed report. Here's Linda Pontiac for this year, and we've got a total this year of $500. This display shows us all of our previous months, what our average gig was, and what the average invoice amount was, and how much we made in a given month. Okay. That's easy to go back and see where you're making your money and whatnot. Okay. You can even see what discounts were given, what the total amounts were here as well. Okay. Yeah, once you move them out, then they're off the billing screen completely. So you don't have to fool with that. These are invoices that have not been dealt with. This one's outstanding by 69 days, as you can see. Now, looking at some of the other report screens, our tentative screen is really important. First of all, it shows whether or not the quote we sent was viewed or not. When the client clicks the quote link and it brings it up, it changes this flag to a date stamp, so that you know that they saw the quote. Whereas in these two cases, neither one has viewed the quote, so it's red flagging it. Likewise, in this column here, you'll get heads up displays when there's been too long of a time before you've contacted them. Too long has gone by. Because this one has still not been viewed, it's pointless to show a display there, but you'll get that if it's been viewed and yet you haven't done any follow-ups on that individual. It'll show here the day since the last follow-up you did. So if you went in and you added notes to the account, it's going to put that in there if they've got a tentative that's underway. Okay. Likewise, in our book screen, if we had more booked events, they would start appearing in a drop-down list in event order. So they're going to sort by those invoices, by the date, and we can actually then drill into the client and pull up their screen right away. So that's how booked works. You know how completed works. DWO, as I already mentioned, is didn't work out. We can start getting and compiling a list of those accounts that, for whatever reason, they contacted us, but it just didn't work out. Maybe their scheduling didn't work with your scheduling. So it went into DWO, but it's a great reference link down the road, because then you could go back at any time, click on the client anywhere in the client, and it'll show up. This gray is the DWO in question. That's what's flagging it under DWO. But you notice that there's 2 completed events that are also in this account. So this tells us right off the bat that we did 3 events with them, 2 were completed, and 1 didn't work out. I'm going to go in and look back at, see if you guys have any questions. I've got to turn that share screen off for a moment, otherwise you get the endless loop. Okay. You want to go ahead and type in, yes, I get it, or you want me to go over anything more? There is a couple more features that I'm than happy to show you that make your life even easier with using the software. Just go ahead and chat in there whether you're still alive and with me, or whether or not we need to close it down. And I'm going to just ramble while you go ahead and do that. Again, to communicate with me, just go ahead and click on that little chat box down at the bottom, and you can type whatever you need. Okay, nothing like dead air in in a broadcast. Yes, there's a question that came in. Can people access the replay of this broadcast? And the answer to that is yes, they can. And as a matter of fact, it'll probably be even clearer, because the link I'm going to send to you is that of YouTube Direct. So it ends up cleaning up the screen quite a bit. So if you've had some fuzziness in the display, it should help you be able to see a little bit better. And since I have your email address from your registration, then I can go ahead and just send you that link after we're done. And it's been edited down for some of the blanks and all that. Okay, so it looks like everyone's doing well. I'm going to go ahead and press on with just a couple more things, and then we'll call it a night. Since we're coming up on the 7 o'clock hour, I wanted to try to get this done in under an hour. So let me turn screen sharing back on. And here we go. Okay, so coming back into this display in here. So I wanted to cover what the search functions work, how they work. Pretty straightforward. You can search by any of these categories, and it makes it really pretty easy. You can even search by your note. So if you forgot the person's name and you want to go ahead and just search, you typed in something about Vancouver or whatever, you could, it's in one of your notes, but you don't remember who, you could put it in, you could do a search by note. In this case, we're going to do a quick search by first name. And we know that there is an account called Linda. And there she is, Linda Pontiac. And we could click that and take us right to that client account. Okay. The history file is a list of the last 100 transactions that you did inside show operations. That's very handy to know if you're wanting to double back real quick and take a look at what you did. And you can actually navigate to the client by clicking on the left column. It'll take you right to where they were. We've covered the ad client, we've covered billing, we've covered the history. This leads us to the last bit, which is the utilities. Okay. Probably the first thing you're going to want to do to get your automated system in play is you're going to want to take the code that's down in this little box here. You just highlight it and right-click, copy and paste that code into your web page. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a request form, and that request form is directly linked to your show operations account. So when the individual fills out your contact information form that this generates, when they hit the submit button, guess what? Boom, they're automatically inside show operations. You don't have to fool with it. And what they'll do is they're going to come up as a initial request, and I want to show you what that looks like. So okay, let's do this. I'm going to go real quick into the back office of WordPress here, because I'm going to paste that code into a fake page so you can see what I'm talking about. In fact, we could probably just put it in add new post. Oh, actually, I do want to do it as an add new page, because then I can preview it. Add new. New. All right. So here we've got a page in WordPress. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm in text mode, and I'm going to paste the code in. There it is. And now I'm going to preview this. And let's go to preview. Loading. Okay. Here's the request quote page that just got generated. Okay. Fill this out. They're going to fill out your contact info. Date of first choice event, the 22nd. Date of second choice event, the 29th. And we can see here, by the way, my particular theme likes to override the CSS of the form. So it will look normal on probably most of your pages. This is a very funky theme. Okay, so here the event type is a private party. It's 10 to 35 people. It's adults. And that's the zip code. How did you hear about us? A friend. Okay. And a note if they need be. We're going to hit submit. They get a thank you notice. We'll get back to you shortly. And now let's go back into show operations. And now you have an initial response flag, and it does shove this over because of the screen width. If you're working on a bigger screen width, that won't happen, but it's still no big deal. It's a heads up anyway. So here's our initial response. Here is the client information that we got, and everything shows up in bright red. Okay. This means that this individual we haven't responded, and so it's in flaming red to get your attention that it needs to have work done. So you could go in and you can edit the event, and that brings up the edit window. Once you change the status from initial to tentative, then the flaming message goes away and it turns back into the nice blue color. Okay. So the flaming red is just to let you know, hey, this is a hot one. Let's jump on it. And let's show a couple last features. If you click on this little button here, it brings up the to-do items. If you needed to do a set of follow-ups with the individual, you could create individualized notes that go into the follow-up screen. So maybe you have to apply for a permit or something that has to go on. You could create the follow-ups by going into add to-dos. So here we would just say best follow-up 1. And now this shows up here. And when we click on that, we can see what other follow-ups we need to do. We can go in and we can edit a note on the follow-up, or we can delete it completely. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. We're done. And let's go to utilities one more time. We'll finish this up because we're coming up on 3 minutes before the hour. All right, so we could go in and we can create labels with this system. It allows us to go in and let's say we have a sort. We want to go out and print some labels on our printer. We can use a variety of Avery label types. In this case, we can search by, let's say we want to do a campaign in a particular area. We could do it by city. We could do it by status ID. We could do it by company. But so let's go ahead and we're going to say 91505. Okay. Now there's also this cool feature here. It's called a label adjustment, and it's designed so that you don't waste labels. So let me show you what it looks like when we just do a regular search with 91505. Here we have random companies and their layouts, and this is a Avery label 5160, so it has 3 across labeling. Okay. Now let's go back and let's say we printed out this job, and now but we get another client that needs another set of we need to mail out to another client. We don't want to throw away two-thirds of the labels. That's wasteful. So what we can do is we know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are in this search request. Let's go back in, put 91505, and we're going to put an offset of 6 labels. Now our search comes back, and you can see here that we are starting on the 7th label. Okay, so if we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, here's the 7th that starts it. Likewise, if it were just one individual, we could do it that way too. See if I typed your name right. Let's say you're 9 into the label. There it is. So all these are dead because you've already peeled them off and mailed. We've put the same label back into our printer, and away we go. We can use up the full amount, even if we're doing onesie twosie mailings, which I think is a nice feature. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you is that you can save and import your data into and out of show operations. So if, let's say, you need to back up your files and you want to create some CSV files, those are comma-separated value files. We did it that way so that this would be compatible with just about every system on the planet that can read a comma-separated value file. So it makes compatibility with moving on or importing into other programs a snap. And likewise, importing the data into show operations is also pretty easy through this module here. That's how you would do it. And that's what our utilities page is. All right, and it looks like it's 7:01. I went a minute over. Yikes. All right, so I'm going to flip back over to the window, the Hangout window, and I'm going to turn off the screen share and take up any last-minute questions that you might have. So if you've got last-minute questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'll wait the minute while we have the lag in broadcast. I hope that the webinar tonight has been insightful and that you were able to see just the power of what show operations can do for you, how you can leverage your time. And I hope that it inspires you to take action. And if you have not signed up for show operations, to go ahead and do so, because I think that it can benefit just about every small business owner out there that is, needs to communicate with their clients. And even if you're using just the database aspect of it, it's still super easy to use and very intuitive once you start using it. And do we have any last minute questions? Because if I don't hear from you, I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar so we can stay within our time window. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for being on our program today. And I, again, hope that this has been helpful for you to see some of the functionality that we have going on. And we hope to see you as a customer. Thank you so much.